Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Dr. Mark in Santa Fe. For our next Facebook Live, I just went through that 1 minute countdown again that, as you know, drives me so crazy. You think I'd be used to it by now, but I guess it gives me something to start talking about when we get started each week. So thank you for being here. And Carlos just texted me about something completely unrelated. I can't believe he did that. So hopefully he's listening. But anyway, this is our 6th week in a row, and I can't believe that. It's kind of unbelievable. But time flies. Yeah, they say it does that as you get older. But I'm old enough now that I don't remember when I was younger, so I don't know if there's a difference, but it's certainly going by pretty quickly now. But number 6, so I decided to look up and see what number 6 means in the universal symbolism world. And I found a website, oddly enough, called the universeofsymbolism.com. And I learned a new trick today, so let's see if I can do it. I'm going to put something up on the screen that you probably are not going to be able to read, but I'm going to read it to you. And I apologize, it's covering half of my face, but I'll take it down in a moment. But I wanted to see what the number 6 means, because I don't think anything is coincidental in the world. And hopefully you don't either. There's a reason for everything and a season for everything. And it's really helpful sometimes to take a look at what that is. So in terms of the number 6, the spiritual meaning according to the universeofsymbolism.com, it's a spiritual meaning of 6. 6 is the number of seeing. It is the number that connects to intuitive guides and guidance. 6 is the realm of the inner vision, inner wisdom, and with practice, it is the gateway to clairvoyance. 6 is the number that taps into the infinite powers of imagination and visualization and dreams. 6 opens the gateway to unlocking your ability to see that you can do anything, be anything, and create anything that you truly desire. Hold your vision in the subconscious, as it cannot distinguish between a vision and reality. And they're talking about the subconscious there, being unable to distinguish between what's real and what's not. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago in terms of the brain, and subconscious and brain, same thing. And with time, your vision will take hold in reality if you know how to form the vision in your mind. And I think that's really timely for tonight's topic, so I was very happy to find that. And disclaimer, this is the first explanation of the number 6 that I found, but when I looked a little bit farther, I found some others, and they were completely different. So along the same lines, but not quite in this powerful language that I think is so apropos to what I want to talk a little bit about with you tonight. So welcome back, week number 6. I will take this off the screen. If anybody wants to know where it's from, feel free to send a message, or you'll be able to see it on the screen in the replay as well, and make it bigger so that you can actually read it. So anyway, if you had seen the promos for tonight's Facebook Live, I'd asked you to think about a couple of things, or one thing, but to think about some things that when you were a kid, so as young as you could remember, what you used to think about that really, really bothered you. What are some of the things that got you in trouble? Were you a rebellious kid, a rule breaker, accused of being a know-it-all? Using your intuition, that's a big one for a lot of kids. Being too caught up in yourself or too easily distracted. Whatever they were, chances are those things, especially if they bothered you, were big clues to who you really are. And that's what we want to talk a little bit about tonight. And I'm going to take you through a quick exercise in a moment to kind of reconnect with some of that stuff if you didn't have the opportunity to do it before tonight's Facebook Live episode. But, you know, it's a really tough topic, at least it is for me and for most of the clients I've worked with. When we start to get back to that childhood stuff, it really, really pushes our buttons, brings up old resentments that maybe we had even forgotten about, but they're still brewing. Unresolved fears, maybe, guilt, situations that we just didn't like very much, that we put out of our mind, and other challenges. So when that happens, I know that when it happens for me anyway, when I start to intentionally think about those things, I get super, super distracted. So I've got some notes here in case that happens, so I remember what I'm talking about. I've got some lemon balm tea, which is a really good relaxing tea. And if you can see this, I have a a France mug, courtesy of Carlos, who spent a few months studying in Amsterdam a couple of years ago and managed to go to every country nearby every weekend. So I got a Starbucks mug from every country. So thank you again, Carlos. Anyway, so I calm myself, cut some lemon balm tea, and have some notes if I need them. But it's a really, really important topic, the topic of reconnecting to some of the experiences that you had as a kid and trying to connect those dots to give you a better picture of who you really are. And it's super important because it gives you an opportunity to really take a look at the essence of who you were before you had that influence of your early caretakers and society, that programming that we all got, or the deprogramming from what we really are. So it's a real good sense of your authentic self. And the problem is that as we get older, and we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago maybe, about the Jesuits, or maybe the first week actually, 400 years ago, we're teaching about this idea that the brain we were operating in subconscious mode for the first 7 or so years of our life. And that's kind of what this quote, this number 6 is talking about, that your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and a vision that you might have. But when we're 7 years old or younger, and our subconscious mind is really all we've got developed, all we're hearing is what other people are telling us, and we're accepting that as reality because we don't have our own visions at that point. So as we get older and we start to challenge those things, we can come up to a place in our life where we're really disconnecting from who we are. And that disconnect leads to a lot of discontent. And, a lot of the work that I've done for the past 20 years has been with people who have addiction problems or coming out of prison, not even just jail, but prison for crimes, and this habitual lifestyle that just leads to trouble. And I'm convinced that it's because of this disconnect of who we really are as we get older, and not understanding how to make those connections again, and feeling good enough about ourselves that we can go about into the world and do what we really want to do. And society, unfortunately, labels that as pathology, which is kind of a continuation of the programming from when we were young. When we were young, we're being told how we should be and what we should believe. And then as we get older and we're not doing that very well, and we have all these other problems, we get labeled as mentally ill or drug addicts or criminals or whatever you want to call it. And it's really just a struggle of trying to reconnect. And if none of that really bad stuff happens to you, but there's still often this general unhappiness that we deal with. And so I don't think any of us escapes that. So it's this idea of subconscious versus conscious, brain versus mind, finding ways to recreate ourselves in the image of who we were when we were born, so that we can go forth and live the rest of our lives from that place and feel connected and feel good and do good in the world and have satisfying relationships at the same time. So what I want to ask you to do tonight is to just take a few minutes and sort of go through an exercise, which really will just take a few minutes, and see if you can reconnect with some of that essence of who you were when you were real young. So obviously, disclaimer number 2, if you're driving, don't do this. Some people listen to Facebook Live replays in the car, or I guess even live in the car, and just listen to the audio. Someday, one of the folks out there made a great suggestion that we start doing podcasts, and I'd really like to do that. And Carlos and I are working on implementing that. So in that case, you really will be only audio. So if you're doing anything where you shouldn't be sitting and relaxing and just kind of going into yourself, do it on a replay. Don't do it now. Just listen for now. But if you're able and if you're willing, what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, is to close your eyes. And when I'm working with a client, excuse me, I don't require that people close their eyes, and I certainly won't require that you do it here. But when I'm working with clients, especially when there are issues of intimacy and abuse and violation, it can be very difficult for people to close their eyes when they're in the presence of another person like myself in the room. Hopefully, if you're by yourself, you might feel more safe doing that. And if you can close your eyes, just go ahead and do that and be comfortable with where you're sitting. And I'd like to ask you just to take a breath in and hold it for about 5 seconds. And let's count down to 4, 3, 2, 1. And now exhale over another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's take another deep breath in and hold it for about 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's do it one more time for a total of 3. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. And just keeping your eyes closed if you're able. And now that you've slowed your breathing just a bit, and doing that just kind of signals to your body to relax. And I know that if I'm feeling a little bit anxious, which I've had plenty of this week if you read my blog on my website, sometimes it's hard to slow your breathing down. You feel like you're going to get out of breath. So just breathe in the way that's comfortable for you, but you're still signaling your body to relax a bit by slowing it down to the degree that you can. And I'd like to just invite all of our spirits and angels and guides, creators, to just sit with each of us for the next few minutes while we go through this exercise. And what I'd like to invite you to do is to imagine yourself as young as you can. The age really doesn't matter, but my guess is that you'll be able to remember yourself probably, in kindergarten, or I remember kindergarten getting my first bloody nose. But you'll be able to remember yourself at a pretty young age. And just make a general connection with yourself back then. There's no pressure for anything in particular, no particular age. No thoughts that I'm asking you to get in touch with in this moment. But once you feel like you're there, try to conjure up an image, a feeling, a thought, however it is that you might connect to a visualization. Visualizations can be multisensory. They don't have to be with images, and many of us don't connect very well with images. So try to get a sense of an image or a feeling or a thought, something that kind of connects you with that time in your life. And keep in mind that might be difficult to do. And once you've got some connection, try to remember, or if you need to, you can ask yourself in your mind, what did you struggle with back then? What might have scared you? There's a wonderful movie called Finding Joe, which I watch many, many times over and over when I feel the need to reconnect with myself. It's about Joseph Campbell's life, but his teachings on the hero's journey and mythology. And there's I call them talking heads, which isn't the best term, but there's a reverend who speaks in that movie, and she talks about reconnecting with what did you go to bed at night crying about when you were a kid? So what might have scared you? What did you struggle with? What might have seemed unfair when you were young? Or if it's easier or a different way to access it, if you could have changed something when you were a kid, what might it have been? And just kind of sit with that for a moment. When I was a kid, I was pretty intuitive, and I think a lot of us were. I don't think it's something that I had necessarily different from others, but I was a pretty intuitive kid, and I remember getting in trouble once because we were always on Weight Watchers when I was a kid. My whole family was overweight, and we were on Weight Watchers. We ate Weight Watchers TV dinners every night, and stuff that would horrify me now. But I remember, and back then in Weight Watchers, you had these little weigh-in cards, and you'd go get your weight, and they'd write it on the card, and then you'd take your card and go back next week again. And there's lots of stories around that, which I won't get into. But I remember, I don't know how old I was, but for some reason, I blurted out my sister's weight. And I seem to remember it was like 122 and a half pounds. I don't know if that's accurate anymore, but it was that detailed, right down to the half pound. And I was right. And I got in so much trouble because my family was convinced that I'd found my sister's secret place in her bedroom and found her weight card and read it. And I didn't do that. I think I know where it was, but I didn't do that unless I did it in my sleep. But I found that when I was a kid, if I would blurt something out, I would be right on. My intuition was right on. But, I got the message real clear that was something that other people didn't appreciate. They didn't understand it for what I now know intuition is. And I kind of got squashed for it. I was also a really sensitive kid in most other ways, about people, situations. I guess today maybe you would say I was an empath at that time, and I think I still am. I think now society would label that as not a sociopath, good Lord, as codependent when you connect too much with other people's feelings. But being empathic was very, very strong. So what was it for you? What was it for you? And just hold those things in your mind for a moment and open your eyes when you're ready. Maybe take another deep breath just to kind of reconnect with the room that you're in. And if you feel comfortable, put a mention in the comments below. What is it that you reconnected with that was really an aspect of yourself that other people didn't understand, didn't appreciate? Another one for me was kind of being goofy. And I still do that, obviously. I've done it on these broadcasts. But you know what? As I've gotten older and got into the work that I did, and over the years have done a lot of work with people who were dying, people with cancer, people with cancer-related pain that weren't dying soon but had horrible pain that we couldn't control, people with HIV back in the 80s when we didn't even know what it was and were scared out of their wits. That kind of goofiness was really, really valuable. And if I had just squashed it as a kid like people wanted me to because I was a clown and people didn't appreciate it, I could have never given the people that I've come across later in life that aspect of myself. So what were those things for you? Chances are the more difficult you found it as a kid, the tougher it is emotionally to connect with those experiences now. Unless you've done some work on it. And if you have, you might be more in touch. So the homework that I want to offer you this week is just try and stay mindful of what you connected with tonight. Or if you're looking at this on a replay, what you connect with after you run through this exercise. Or do it again if you need to. So stay mindful of what those things are, those aspects of you, the struggles that you had as a kid. Look for opportunities where you might intentionally express these things as you go through your week. And notice the situations where maybe you get, people buck you a little bit for doing that. What situations do you run into where it's just not valued? And where law of attraction comes in, I always say that law of attraction can be, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Oh, it can be cool or cruel. So law of attraction can be really cool in that it attracts more things to you that you really want because you're putting out the stuff that you really want. But it can be really cruel because sometimes you're putting out stuff that you don't know you're putting out, and you're getting a correction from the universe. So where law of attraction can help in this process is that as you begin to express these authentic parts of yourself more, even if other people resist it initially, you're going to find that you begin to attract more and more situations into your life where they're embraced. And the easier it'll become to be that authentic self that you know yourself now to be. So let us know how it goes this week. I don't see any comments coming in, but when they come in during the week, I'll certainly look back and answer them at that time. You can put them here on Facebook. You can put them on our website at drmarkacuri.com, and you'll see I'm getting good at this. You'll see the spelling right there. There's a Facebook Live archives page. There's a Dr. Mark's Musings blog, which I put up every Monday morning. So you can go ahead and read through those as well on various topics, things that inspire me usually that day. And sign up for our Transformational Tips newsletter to get more tips and things that hopefully will inspire you as you go along. And Carlos and I are putting together a little bit of a package as a surprise for December. So look for that being mentioned in a couple of weeks. But otherwise, we will see you next week here on Facebook Live when I will be coming to you from Mexico. So I'm excited about that. I leave on Sunday. And let us know how it goes this week, because I'd really like to continue this conversation and support you through it and feel supported through it through what you give back to me in those comments. I appreciate it. Good night.